The heavy metal world stands united in grief this week as we say goodbye to one of the most iconic figures in the history of rock music, Ozzy Osbourne, who passed away at the age of 74 after a prolonged and valiant fight against Parkinson's disease. A towering presence both on and off the stage, Ozzy wasn't merely a performer. He was a cultural force, a voice of rebellion, a figure of mythic stature, and for many, the reason they picked up an instrument in the first place. Among the many artists mourning his passing, Metallica, one of the biggest rock bands of all time, has issued a deeply moving and heartfelt tribute. Their message speaks not only to Ozzy's legendary status in the metal community, but to the very real and personal role he played in their lives. In their statement, the band expressed immense sorrow at his passing, calling him not just a legend, but a mentor, an inspiration, and above all, a dear friend. They reflected on how, in their early days, both Ozzy and Sharon Osbourne offered them guidance and belief when they were still carving out their identity as a band. It wasn't just about sharing stages, it was about trust, respect, and being welcomed into a world where only few are allowed. They credit Ozzy with helping them grow not just as musicians but as people. He taught them the rigors of the road, the magnitude of the stage, and the balance of humility and power that only the greats possess. Their tribute read in part, "Words fail to capture what Ozzy has meant to us. He was larger than life, yet made you feel seen. He had a wicked sense of humor, a generous heart, and a passion for music that was infectious. Ozzy didn't just shape the genre, he shaped our path. We are devastated by this loss." The band also extended their deepest sympathies to Sharon Osbourne, their children, Ozzy's fellow bandmates, and his enormous global family of friends and fans. This was not just a musical loss, it was personal, profound, and immeasurable. To further honor his memory, longtime Metallica collaborator and So What? Magazine editor Stefan Chirazi, who also co-hosts the Metallica Report podcast, offered a poignant personal reflection. Having worked alongside Ozzy from 1991 to 1997, Chirazi had a rare front-row seat to the madness, magic, and humanity that defined the man behind the legend. His tribute wasn't just a chronicle, it was a love letter to a performer who could make chaos feel like a celebration. He recalled a memory from the 1992 No More Tours tour, when Ozzy playfully chased him down with buckets of water, soaking him in front of a laughing crowd. "I turned around and saw those wild, spinning eyes of his. He was howling with laughter, thrilled by the prank. That moment? That was Ozzy. Mischievous, larger than life, and totally unforgettable." But the laughter gave way to emotion as Chirazi recalled being overwhelmed by grief while listening to Suicide Solution, one of Ozzy's most powerful songs. "Tears welled up. I tried to suppress them, but why? Ozzy was the soundtrack to so many moments of my life, and now that voice is gone." Ozzy Osbourne was more than the Prince of Darkness. He was a husband, a father, a mentor, and a beacon for misfits and dreamers everywhere. From his early days in Birmingham's industrial streets to the arenas and festivals of the world, he remained unapologetically himself. Wild, passionate, brave. As the tributes continue to pour in from artists, fans, and friends around the world, one thing is unmistakably clear. Ozzy didn't just leave behind a catalog of music, he left behind a movement, a brotherhood, and a spirit that can never be silenced. Rest in peace, Ozzy Osbourne. Your voice, your spirit, and your legend will echo through eternity. In the early days, Ozzy Osbourne wasn't just breaking into the music scene, he was redefining it. With Black Sabbath, he laid the foundation for what would become heavy metal, introducing a darker, more intense sound that gave voice to a generation disillusioned by war, politics, and conformity. Songs like Paranoid, Iron Man, and Children of the Grave weren't just riffs and lyrics. They were statements, raw expressions of a world that was often grim and uncertain. Ozzy didn't shy away from that darkness. He embraced it, gave it a name, and turned it into anthems. As a solo artist, he proved that he wasn't just part of a legendary band, he was a legend. His collaboration with Randy Rhoads, the release of iconic albums like Blizzard of Oz and Diary of a Madman, and his continued reinvention through the decades solidified his place as one of rock's most enduring and influential voices. Even as trends changed and the music industry evolved, Ozzy remained relevant, always unpredictable, always authentic, and always committed to his art. But perhaps the most remarkable thing about Ozzy was the loyalty he inspired from his fans, his peers, and especially from younger artists who saw in him both a trailblazer and a guide. Metallica's members have long credited him not just for his musical influence, but for his generosity behind the scenes. He wasn't the kind of legend who stayed at the top alone. He lifted others with him. He took risks on newcomers. He offered advice. He celebrated their successes. Beyond the spotlight, Ozzy's humanity shone just as brightly. His love for his family was unwavering. Through the highs and lows of fame, addiction, illness, and public scrutiny, Ozzy always returned to his roots. A father, a husband, a man still chasing the joy of making music. His relationship with Sharon Osbourne became one of rock's most iconic partnerships, not just in business, but in resilience, love, and endurance. They faced storms together, always standing tall no matter how fierce the winds. The outpouring of grief and remembrance from across the globe, from bands, actors, fans, and even world leaders, proves just how far his influence reached. Ozzy wasn't just beloved by metalheads. He was a household name, a symbol of individuality, and in later years, even a figure of humor and vulnerability, thanks to his reality show The Osbournes, which introduced a whole new generation to his charm and chaos.